Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Relay Space stream of the SXM-8 launch. I'm just trying to make sure everything is online here. Thank you for bearing with me for a moment. So this evening, SpaceX are launching a mission for SiriusXM Radio, which is a big geostationary satellite. It's about 7 tons. The booster that is doing this launch previously flew the Crew 1 and Crew 2 astronaut missions, which is pretty cool. Alright. Just gonna send out a quick tweet here to let everybody know that I'm live. So, alright. Let's bring up our screen here. Should have the webcast go live shortly. Should be about 5 minutes, I think, until the webcast goes live. All right. Hey, Mud Trucker. Thank you for joining me. Should be a fun one. So, we are expecting the booster to land on a drone ship for this mission. The drone ship for this mission is just read the instructions. And as you can see, the up in the top left-hand corner here, the mission patch for this mission features the booster landing, which is pretty cool. I like that one quite a bit. So this mission is to launch a communications satellite, so specifically a SiriusXM radio satellite. It's about 7 tons, and it's going to geostationary orbit. The Falcon 9 will basically give her the old heave-ho. I don't expect Falcon 9 to be able to get it into the full geostationary transfer orbit. 7 tons is quite a big satellite, so it'll put it into what's called a subsynchronous geostationary transfer orbit, which just means that the satellite has to do some of its own, more of its own propulsion after it's up there. I'll take a quick look here. SpaceX already launched the SiriusXM-7 mission, so I'm going to take a quick boo and see what the orbital characteristics were like for that mission. Just a moment. Hey, SpaceX FM is live. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Let's go full screen. This booster has done 2 missions before. They were Crew 1 and Crew 2. So they were both astronaut missions prior. So it's on its 3rd mission. Still trying to look up that information. I'll find it. Just give me a minute here. All right, here we go. There it is. Using this page, it's pretty neat page. But in here you can actually see what the orbital characteristics were of every launch. So I'm going to look back at the SXM-7 one. So SXM-7 mission launched into a 249 by 19,515 kilometer orbit. So that is definitely a subsynchronous orbit, a subsynchronous geostationary transfer orbit. So we will probably see something similar. So about 250 by 20,000 kilometers, roughly. But it's a good old heave-ho. It has been a while since Falcon did a geostationary transfer launch. The last one was in January of this year for Turksat 5A. Yeah, looking forward to a bit of a different mission here. We've been seeing a lot, of course, of the Starlink missions, which are fun, but, you know, there's been, like, a ton of them this year. In fact, SpaceX has launched 13 Starlink missions this year so far. The Falcon 9 is now looks like the Falcon 9 is now fully loaded with kerosene, or RP1 as it's also known, which stands for Rocket Propellant 1. And they are doing liquid oxygen loading right now. See, this is an interesting question, Mud Trucka. Like, they could have put this on a Falcon Heavy and got it all the way to geostationary transfer orbit, like the full geostationary transfer orbit, no problem. But there isn't a lot of that going on. Of course, Falcon Heavy does cost significantly more than Falcon 9 does for a launch. But perhaps as Falcon Heavy gets more flight experience, we might see more and more of those occur. I would say anything bigger than this. So if you got up into the 8-ton range to geostationary transfer orbit, or anything going to an escape trajectory. So anything you're talking about going to deep space, especially a spacecraft of any size, will probably all be Falcon Heavies. Also, we do see some upcoming Falcon Heavy missions for the Gateway Logistics Module. And the habitation module for the Lunar Gateway. That is the space station that NASA and partners are planning to build around the moon. Falcon Heavy also is signed up to launch all of the supply missions to the Lunar Gateway. And here we go.
Ignition.
We're starting it up.
Liftoff.
Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Ten, 9, 8,
Side booster ignition.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening. You're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as it awaits its 12:26 a.m. Eastern Time liftoff from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral on Sunday, June 6th. My name is Jesse Anderson, and I'm a lead manufacturing engineer here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, where it's still Saturday evening. Welcome to our webcast for SXM-8, our second launch for SiriusXM. Today also marks SpaceX's 18th launch of 2021, and we're only halfway through the year and already have launched more than we did in 2019. If you're wondering if today's customer to the music provider, your guess would be correct. The satellite being launched today will enable SiriusXM's ability to provide users with satellite-powered audio radio services for at least the next 15 years. We'll share a few more details about today's payload a bit later in the webcast. And as many of you likely know, across the world, June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. Here in the United States, Pride Month commemorates the 1969 Stonewall riots, widely recognized as a catalyst for the gay rights movement globally, and recognizes the impact LGBTQ+ people have had in the world. Here at SpaceX, we have encouraged everyone to use this month and every month as a springboard to celebrate, learn, discuss, and reflect upon the ways the STEM, aerospace, and aviation fields have also benefited and advanced from the work of the LGBTQ+ community. And we encourage you to do the same. Before we take a closer look at the rocket on your screen, here's a quick breakdown of today's mission profile. Once Falcon 9 lifts off the ground in about 10 minutes from now, our first and second stages will separate at about 2.5 minutes into flight. The first stage will return back to Earth, and we will be attempting to recover it on our drone ship, Just Read the Instructions, for a third time.
Just read the
While
instructions.
that's happening, our second stage will continue on its journey. In order to get the satellite to its intended orbit, we will be igniting our Merlin vacuum engine twice today. Finally, the deployment of the SiriusXM satellite will occur at around T+31 minutes. On your screen is a live view of Falcon 9, our two-stage bipropellant vehicle. The Falcon 9 vehicle is about 70 meters or 229 feet tall, just slightly taller than the wingspan of a 747 aircraft. The bottom two-thirds of the vehicle is the first stage, which accelerates the vehicle along with the payload through the Earth's atmosphere out to space with the help of 9 Merlin engines. The first stage is also the part of the vehicle that we land back on Earth to be reflown over and over again. And like many of our missions this year, today's first stage is flying again. This is the third flight for this specific booster. Prior to today's mission, it supported 2 NASA Crew missions, Crew 1 in November of last year and Crew 2 in April of this year. Today, we will be attempting to recover the first stage on our drone ship, Just Read the Instructions, stationed out in the Atlantic Ocean. You can see a live view from Just Read the Instructions on your screen. At the top of the vehicle, on top of the first stage, is the black carbon fiber inner stage, and right above that is the Falcon 9 second stage, which has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine. Now, once the first and second stages separate at about 2.5 minutes into the mission, the MVAC engine will ignite and carry the SXM-8 satellite into an elliptical orbit around Earth. Now, at the very top of the rocket is a composite structure, which we call the payload fairing. And that's what you see right there on your screen. Today's fairing will protect the SXM-8 satellite from aerothermal heating, aerodynamic loads, and contamination during ascent. Once we reach the vacuum of space, we no longer need this protection, so we will jettison the fairing as the second stage to orbit. Today, the fairing halves protecting the SXM-8 satellite are taking flight for the first time, and we'll be recovering them with our recovery vessels, Go Searcher and Go Navigator. Falcon 9 has been loading propellants since T-minus 35 minutes, and we use a rocket-grade kerosene, or RP1, which stands for Rocket Propellant 1, as our fuel, and super-chilled liquid oxygen, or LOX, as our oxidizer to power Falcon 9. Currently, RP1 and LOX are nearly fully loaded on both stages, and LOX will continue to be topped off right until the final minutes of the countdown. If for some reason we do not launch today, we have a backup launch opportunity available tomorrow at the same time. As of now, we're still in good standing for an on-time liftoff. The latest weather forecast is 70% favorable, and weather conditions look good for the booster recovery as well.
Excellent.
Now, with that, the vehicle,
Yay for good
satellite,
weather.
and range are all good to go for Falcon 9's 12:26 a.m. liftoff from Space Launch Complex 40. If you're just tuning in,
Looking good.
as we mentioned earlier, for today's mission, we're launching a high-powered digital audio radio satellite for SiriusXM known as SXM-8. We previously launched the SXM-7 satellite for SiriusXM last December. To learn more specific details about today's satellite, let's check out this video from the satellite's manufacturer, Maxar.
Maxar.
Stage 1 fuel load is complete.
Wow. That thing's huge. Look at that thing. Oh my god. It's Massivo. Massivo. That's cool. That's a good little teaser. Lots of cool views of the satellite.
We are currently T-minus 5.5 minutes from liftoff, and Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of the countdown. Now, we're currently waiting for the transporter erector, the TE, to retract. That'll happen in about a minute from now, or just under a minute from now. The TE is the white painted structure that's positioned right next to the vehicle. On your screen, it's to the left of Falcon 9. As we prepare to transition into the final stages of the countdown, the TE clamps will open, and then the transporter erector will begin to retract away from the rocket slightly. And as the Falcon 9 lifts off at T0, hydraulics will pull the TE farther away, and that clears the way for Falcon 9's liftoff. Sounds like we got a call out to start opening up those clamps. Now, the TE provides liquids, gases, electrical connections to the second stage, as well as air conditioning to the payload fairing.
Strong back retract sequence has started.
The clamps open.
And there you can see on your screen those clamps that I mentioned earlier are opening up. Once those are fully open, then the TE can start to retract. And it looks
There
very,
goes
very
the
slight, but that transporter erector is
TE.
now starting to recline just slightly there, as I mentioned. And that looks like it completes the strong back retract. Now at this time, the first and second stages are both nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. And as the super chilled liquid oxygen, which is our propellant oxidizer, turns into gas as it meets the warmer, humid ambient air during loading.
I'm not really sure.
It forms those white clouds that you see
I'm
around
kind of curious
Falcon
about that
9.
as well. I would think that it would probably be dependent on the satellite.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
And there's that call out that LOX load is
Yeah, that's an
complete on the
interesting
first
question.
stage. Now for your awareness, second stage will complete LOX loading at T-minus 2 minutes. And at T-minus 60 seconds, Falcon 9 will be in startup. And what that means is the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers will have taken over the launch countdown. Just inside T-minus 2 seconds, we will light the Merlin M1D engines to get set for liftoff. With a few minutes left in the countdown, the SXM-8 payload continues to be healthy, and the Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. The surrounding ground, water, and airspace received its green for launch from the range. So, with about 2 minutes left,
We're good to
getting
go
into
here,
the
folks.
final stages of the countdown. LOX loading should be complete here in a few seconds.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And there's that call out. Now both first and second stage fully loaded with LOX. So now that LOX loading is complete, we will clear out the LOX line on the transporter erector, and you can kind of see some of that venting happening. As I mentioned, those white clouds from the LOX hitting the warmer ambient air and turning into gas. The next event coming up is Falcon 9, going into startup just around T-minus 1 minute.
Flight computers in startup.
And there's that call out. Next call out will be from the launch director.
Falcon 9, Sirius XM-8, LD is go for launch.
And awesome call out. Sounds like we are go for an on-time liftoff today.
Absolutely.
30 seconds.
And with all systems go for launch, let's listen into the terminal count and watch as Falcon 9 takes the SXM-8 satellite into orbit.
15 seconds.
T-minus 15 seconds.
10,
10,
9, 8,
8,
7,
7,
6, 5, 4, 3,
3,
2,
2,
1,
1,
go.
0. Ignition and liftoff.
Beautiful. Go, Falcon, go.
Stage 1 chamber pressures are nominal.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Falcon 9 has successfully
Beautiful
lifted
view
off
here
with
from
the
the ground.
SXM-8 satellite from Space Launch Complex 40. Now the next event coming up.
Is nominal.
Next event coming up here is Max Q, and that is maximum aerodynamic pressure. That's the largest structural load that the vehicle will see on ascent. So we do power down the engines just slightly in preparation. And then
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
after Max Q, we will
Supersonic
follow
Falcon
them back
9.
up.
Max Q here any moment now. And Max Q.
Vehicle has reached maximum aerodynamic pressure.
And there's that call out that we just passed through max Q. So
We're
about a
proceeding
couple of
on
minutes,
to-
we will have 3 events happening within seconds of each other. That'll be main engine cutoff, or what we call MECO, stage separation, and SES-1, or second engine start 1. Now, main engine cutoff is where we shut down all 9 of those M1D engines on that first stage. And that slows the vehicle down in preparation for stage separation.
Started.
Stage separation is where the first stage separates from the second stage. And the first stage will begin to make its way back home to Earth for landing. And stage 2 will continue on its journey with the third event, SES-1. Now that's where the MVAC engine on the second stage lights up and propels the second stage along with the SXM-8 satellite to orbit. And we're just under about 20 seconds
Coming
away
up
from
on
those
MECO
3
here shortly.
events. Again, that is MECO, stage separation, and SES-1.
Beautiful shot of that engine plume. And MECO.
MECO.
And stage separation.
Stage separation confirmed.
Beautiful stage step. And there goes Maryland.
MVAC ignition.
Or MVAC, I should say.
And there you could see all 3 of those
Gorgeous.
events,
I love that
MECO
glow
and
on
stage
the,
separation.
second stage
On your
engine.
left-hand screen is a view of first stage. On your right-hand screen, you could see that MVAC engine on the second stage, glowing bright red. You also got a little glimpse of the green T-TEB ignition for SES-1. Now we're coming up on fairing deploy here, just under 10 seconds away.
Vehicle's on a nominal trajectory.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And there we got a nice live visual of the
Beautiful
fairing
view of
halves
the satellite there.
deploying from second stage. As a reminder, this was the first flight for both fairing halves, and we will be attempting to recover these new fairing halves with the help of our recovery vessels, Go Navigator.
That's Go Navigator and Go Searcher, by the way. If you're wondering why there's been a few hiccups in the stream, it's actually on SpaceX's end, or YouTube's end, I'm not sure. But SpaceX has recently switched over to streaming in 4K.
As second stage head towards its targeted orbit, stage 1 will execute 2 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first of those 2 burns is called the entry burn, and that's where we light up 3 of the 9 M1D engines. Now this helps to slow re-entering back into the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere. And then after the entry burn will be the second and final burn, and that is the landing burn. Now this is a single engine burn that brings the vehicle, was the first stage head towards its targeted orbit. Stage 1 will execute 2 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first of those 2 burns is called the entry burn, and that's where we light up 3 of the 9 M1D
Trying to
engines.
see if
Now,
I
this helps to slow the
can
entering back into the upper parts of the Earth's
sort
atmosphere.
out the stream a little bit.
And then after the entry burn will be the second and final burn, and that is the landing burn. Now, this is a single engine burn that brings the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to touch down on our drone ship. Again, today we will be attempting to land on just read the instructions. If you're just catching up with us, we had a successful launch of Falcon 9 from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station's 4D launch pad, and now you're looking at a live view of Falcon 9's Stage 2 as it delivers the flight to orbit. Stage 1 is currently cruising back to our drone ship, just read the instructions in the Atlantic Ocean.
Sorry for the brief ×2 there is a good way to catch up to the stream. Even if
And
it says
as a
live, a lot
reminder,
of times
today's
it's actually
mission
not
is
live.
for SiriusXM, carrying the SXM-8 satellite to its targeted orbit.
Falcon 9 continues to follow a nominal trajectory.
Coming up an entry
And
burn here shortly.
SXM-8 is the 12th satellite to be launched for SiriusXM service. It transmits 73 decibel watts at peak power, which is 20 million watts of power.
Holy
Now,
crap.
deploying the unfurlable reflector is like opening a large umbrella in space. And a very large umbrella, it's about 9 meters or 29 feet,
Wow.
which is taller than the average 2-story house. Now, with the solar arrays deployed, the length of the satellite is about the same length as a 737 airplane.
You can see a little bit of
And we're coming
plasma
up
flare
on
there on the
entry
left-hand
burn on the
side.
first stage, just under 10 seconds away or so.
Yeah, there's more plasma there. You can get some,
Stage 1 FTS
gonna
is
get an
safe.
entry burn here
Stage 1
momentarily.
entry burn startup.
There she goes. Entry burn.
And there you heard the call out, and on your left-hand screen, you could see that the entry burn has begun on the first stage. Seconds or so. And again, it helps to slow the vehicle down as it's entering back into the Earth's atmosphere.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
And again, there's that call
got
out,
some beautiful
and you can
heating
see
there on those,
on your left-hand screen that the
on those
entry burn
grid fins.
has. On your right-hand screen, stage 2 is
Amazing
still
shot.
looking nominal.
Wow.
And we're just about a minute away from the landing burn on the first stage. And right before the landing burn will be second engine cutoff 1 or SECO 1. And that's where we shut down that MVAC engine that you're looking at on your screen there. A reminder, we do have 2 burns of this MVAC engine for today's mission. And that helps get
Second stage is in terminal guidance.
that helps get the SXM-8 satellite to its final
Coming
orbit.
up on landing
Stage
here
1 transonic.
momentarily.
Again, a couple events happening back to back here. SECO 1
Stage
coming up
2
here
flight
shortly,
termination system has safed.
followed by the landing burn.
Stage 1 landing burn startup.
Landing burn startup on stage 1.
Sounds like the landing burn has begun on first stage. We could see,
Expected loss of signal. Cape.
sounds like we also got a good orbit on the
parking
second
orbit
stage.
insertion.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Landing legs deployed. Looks good so far. Beautiful.
And we have touchdown of Falcon 9. Falcon 9 has
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
just landed on
Awesome.
our drone ship. Just read the instructions.
That's amazing.
Today marks the 87th
Still,
overall
the
successful
87th
recovery
one,
of an
and it's
orbital
still
class
amazing.
rocket,
I think I've
as
seen
well
all
as
87
SpaceX's
of them.
125th successful mission to date. Now, while that was all happening, we did have a successful SECO 1, and a call out for good orbit. So now that second stage is going to coast in this orbit or so. So we'll see you back here at T plus 25 minutes for the second stage relay. Just landed on our drone. 87th overall successful recovery of an orbital class rocket, as well as SpaceX's 125th successful mission to date. Now, while that was all happening, we did have a successful SECO 1, and a call out for good orbit. So now that second stage is going to coast in this orbit or so. So we'll see you back here at T plus 25 minutes for the
All right.
second stage relay.
It's about 15 minutes here. So that was a pretty beautiful launch, beautiful landing. I'm gonna stick with you guys here right through second engine start 2 and then deploy, which looks like it'll be in about, looks like second engine start's gonna be about 15 minutes. Or sorry, second engine start 2 will be in about 15 minutes, and then looks like deploy is about 5 minutes after that. So it should be interesting to see this satellite get deployed. Some beautiful heating off of those grid fins there during the atmospheric re-entry for first stage. talk about Starship, though. So while we are waiting for SpaceX to come back, I'll give you an update on Starship. So, Starship obviously flew a successful suborbital flight to about 10-kilometer altitude. I guess that was about a month ago now. And yeah, so that was Starship serial number 15, and it successfully landed and was recovered after its flight. That Starship is now on display in Boca Chica, Texas. SpaceX has now been focusing very heavily on completing the orbital launch site. So the orbital launch pad and all of the surrounding equipment. So this includes things like the launch and integration tower, which is going to be about 470 feet tall. This includes the launch mount, which is on where the Super Heavy will sit, with Starship atop it. This includes the orbital tank farm, which is very interesting because they're actually making the tanks for the orbital tank farm out of and I call it orbital tank farm because it is the tank farm for the orbital launch site, as opposed to the suborbital site. The orbital tank farm, they're making a lot of the tanks, if not all of the tanks themselves, and at least all the big ones. And they're just using the same methods that they used to make the Starships. Yeah, so all this stuff is coming along. They're doing all of this development simultaneously. This is part of why they have stopped flying and stopped testing Starships. They do have a mostly completed Starship serial number 16. It isn't completely done. They kind of left it in a partially finished state while they are doing other things. But there's so much work to do at the orbital site, and their test campaigns would disrupt that work. So they have been just focusing on finishing infrastructure lately. Yeah, so it's getting to be pretty interesting times down there. I might show you a quick video here and explain some of what's going on. Just a moment. So we will step away from this video. Go to... these folks, RGV Aerial Photography, they do weekly flyovers of Boca Chica, or Starbase as it's now known, in Texas. I do support them on Patreon because they do amazing work. So I'm gonna quickly show off some of the things that are happening down here. So this is a good shot. This is in Brownsville, the port of Brownsville. This is the former oil rig named Deimos, which is Deimos is the name of one of Mars's moons. This is this former oil rig was purchased by SpaceX out of bankruptcy, basically. They bought it for I think like $20 million ish. Which is insane because I think that it cost about $500 million to build, but and it's only about 12 years old. So that'll be amazing platform for them to use. They have bought 2 of them. There's another one named Phobos, which is the other moon of Mars. Basically, their plan is to completely strip them down to their bare deck and then build them back up as a launch and landing, basically floating launch and landing facility for Starship, which is going to be really cool. But this one is the one in Brownsville down near Boca Chica. It hasn't had a lot of work done to it yet, but we will watch that as it goes along. So from here, yeah, we can start taking a look at some of this. So over here we have the cryogenic tank shells. They're making these basically to fit over top of the bare steel GSC tanks. Basically, the two tanks sort of nested inside each other make basically the insulation layer an air gap, so they can have those gigantic tanks near the launch site there. This is an air separation unit, so they're going to be making their own liquid oxygen, their own liquid nitrogen, and also there are a few natural gas wells near there, so they're going to try as well to produce their own methane. You can see here we have a vertical integration tower segment. So these are the pieces of the integration tower. They're building them here and then transporting them to the launch site so they can be stacked. You can see Starship SN-15 is on display here. Here you can see some of those GSE tanks being built. This is GSE-3 and it is almost completely done. GSE-4 is almost completely done as well. This is a mock-up for the lunar version of Starship, which of course won the contract for the human landing system for NASA. Over here, the most interesting thing is the orbital launch table. So this orbital launch table has been under construction and fabrication there at the build site here for about a couple months. They did a ton of work to it. They're getting close to being done. They're currently adding the hold down clamps for the Super Heavy. This is the tiny Boca Chica village. I went here a couple years ago with Desmarius. He took me on a bit of a road trip. We went down here, and it was a great trip. It was 2018. I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit here. Yes, the restaurant that SpaceX opened in Boca Chica is named the Prancing Pony, which is awesome. It's from Lord of the Rings. Let's skip on by this stuff. Here we go. Oh yes, this is a good note. So on the right-hand side here, we have Starship SN-16. One of the ways we know it's not done, there are little arrow covers that normally go over these bottom fins, and they are not on there. Even though Starship's been almost done for over a month. Beside it, just to the left, that other steel cylinder in there is actually the new Super Heavy they're building, which very likely could be the one to do the orbital test. Or possibly could be the one to do the orbital test. You never really know with SpaceX. Let's move right on here. So yeah, there's a good shot of that vertical integration tower segment. Looking here, this is the launch site currently. So the pads that everybody's familiar with, these are the two suborbital pads. This is where the Starships have been launching from already. This is the suborbital tank farm here. Over on this side is the orbital launch site, and this is what they've been working on like crazy lately. So this is that orbital tank farm. You can see that they are basically making Starship shaped or nearly Starship shaped tanks. They're basically made in this exact same way as Starship, and so they're going to be putting up 7 of those tanks here at this site. There's a spot for an 8th tank that will be made entirely. It's a water tank, that 8th tank, and it will be 12 meters in diameter. and it will be made in a similar fashion to the those cryogenic tank shells that I showed you earlier on. So it's going to be a 12-meter diameter, very tall water tank, and it will be welded right to a steel plate on the ground. Should be interesting to see how that works for them. All right. The other things of note here, this is that integration tower. Hey, Sargaroth. This is that integration tower they're building. So this tower is going to be the tower that lifts Super Heavy and Starship onto the orbital launch mount. These are the legs for the launch mount here. And then there's some straight vertical sections that go up that are currently being added. And then that launch table will go on top. Then this huge tower will lift it'll have a crane on the top, and it will lift the booster and the ship and stack them on the pad. And then we'll also have arms to support the rocket. But yeah, this is that whole orbital launch site. Should be very interesting to watch and see this all get developed. So I think that's all I want to talk about. I hope I did not miss anything over with the SXM-8. Oh, that's very good timing. We're just 2 minutes away here. Yeah, so this is one of those cryogenic tank shells I was talking about before, right here. So these actually fit over these guys, right? And so this will go over top of here. And so eventually you will have, what you'll actually see at this site is basically 8 structures that all look like this guy right here. But inside you have these tanks for 7 of them. Yeah. All right, let's slide back over into our SXM-8 webcast. We're coming up on second engine start 2.
Acquisition of signal, Gabon.
Welcome back to the live webcast of SpaceX's SXM-8 mission. We had an on-time liftoff at 12.
Underway.
We had an on-time liftoff at 12:26 a.m. Eastern Time from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Stage 1 returned back to Earth and touched down on a drone ship. Just read the instructions, and this was the 3rd flight and landing for this specific booster. Our second stage is still looking good on a nominal trajectory after its first burn. And now it's getting ready for SES-2 in a few seconds here. SES-2 is second engine start 2. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we do have 2 burns for this second stage in order to get the SXM-8 satellite to its final orbit. And we're just about 20 seconds away from SES-2. That burn will last just about 35 seconds or so long, and will be followed by SECO-2, or second engine cutoff 2.
All right, there goes second engine start 2.
And MVAC ignition.
Go MVAC.
And there you can visually see on your screen that second stage ending back up.
Yep, just
And
powering
this is
its
the
way
second
over
of
there.
2 burns.
Up there, I mean.
Will last just about 30 or so seconds long.
MVAC cutoff.
And there we have confirmed
Beautiful.
SECO 2, or second engine cutoff 2.
Beautiful.
And we did get a good orbit. So we now have another
Excellent.
coast phase. We have another coast phase before we can deploy the SXM-8 satellite from Falcon 9's second stage. So we'll see you back here around T minus 31 minutes. T plus 31 minutes.
So that's just 3.5 minutes from now. While we're waiting here, I'm going to do a quick, I'm going to show off quickly some, well, specifically the landing from the last launch, because it was a pretty nice one. Let's do this. This was the launch just a couple days ago. This was the CRS-22 launch, so this is the Cargo Dragon 2 launching to the space station.
Oral care agents.
Cargo vehicles
Humans when
at the range.
So I'll just show a few clips from
here
this
will be
guy.
Startup.
8, 7,
Here's the
6,
launch. It's a
5,
beautiful launch. Beautiful
4,
landing.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
and liftoff of the 22nd SpaceX cargo resupply mission, bringing new solar arrays to the International Space Station.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
This is a really nice launch.
Engines.
Let's
2 more burns to do. First is an entry burn.
Continue
You'll
on
ignite
here.
3 of its Merlin 1 engines, and you'll occasionally igniting to reduce the amazing. Just joining us, welcome. On your screen is a live view of Falcon 9's first stage
All right,
on the
watch
left.
on the left-hand side
Second
here
stage
for
on
that,
the right. We had
that
an
landing
on-time
video. It's
liftoff at
pretty
1:29
excellent.
p.m. Eastern Time. Nominal ascent so far. Talking a little bit more about talking a little bit more about the first stage. So the next major event coming up is that landing burn. Landing burn
Look at
is what
this.
will bring the vehicle
This is
speed
such a
rapidly down to
beautiful landing
0.
video. You can see the air streaming through those grid fins.
Amazing shots of the first stage during re-entry.
And you can actually
we
see,
get to the
I'm going
first
to show
stage.
you this because this is amazing. You can actually see the drone ship through the grid fins. It's right here. Watch right there. You can see the drone ship.
Amazing shots of the first
Right
stage
there.
during
It's getting
re-entry.
bigger and bigger. You can see them steer towards
Once we get
it. There we
closer
go.
to the drone ship, we will deploy our 4 symmetric landing legs around the base of the first stage for hopefully a nice soft touchdown on that drone ship. You can see a shot of that on the right-hand side of your screen.
Look at that shot all the way down to the deck. Just beautiful.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Picture perfect landing.
That was such a cool
Falcon 9
landing.
for
Anyway,
first stage.
just wanted to show that because it was
for this
pretty
first
cool
stage.
mission.
86 successful recovery overall for SpaceX.
All right, we are
And
almost
in
at
for the
deploy
call out
here.
for payload deploy coming up here in a few seconds.
All right, you guys ready for deployment of the SXM-8 payload?
Payload separation confirmed.
Beautiful. Look at that.
And there you can
Amazing.
see on your screen the SXM-8 satellite drifting away from second stage, confirming payload deploy. What an awesome view of the satellite drifting away.
Man, that is a honking satellite. She's a biggin. Wow.
With
It's all
a
folded up,
successful
too.
separation of the SXM-8 satellite from Falcon 9's second stage, that will bring our webcast coverage to a close. To the Range and Federal Aviation Administration, thank you for supporting today's mission. And of course, to all of our viewers, thank you for supporting our mission by tuning in to today's webcast. We'll see you next time.
Ah, that was awesome. Thank you, everybody. I hope you had a lot of fun following along with me. I'm going to call it a night now. Been up since 5 a.m., so it's time. It's time. And yeah, I'll try and have another stream as soon as I can. I should mention the next SpaceX launch is, I believe, June 17th for the next SpaceX launch. That is the GPS 3-5 satellite. So it's the fifth satellite of the third generation of the GPS constellation. But it should be noted there's a couple other interesting launches coming up before then. June 13th, Launcher 1, which is the launcher for Virgin Orbit, is launching an orbital mission called Tubular Bells. And that one is June 13th. And then June 15th is a Minotaur launch from Wallops in Virginia. There hasn't been a Minotaur launch in a while. They used to be really common. They're quite rare now. Old military rockets. Let me take a quick look here for Minotaur. Minotaur rocket. But yeah, that'll be an interesting one to watch. There can't be a lot of Minotaur rockets left. Especially Minotaur 1s, which is what this flight is. This is a Minotaur 1 that is launching in the NROL 111 mission. So this is only the 12th mission for Minotaur 1. And it hasn't flown. Minotaur 1 hasn't flown in 8 years. So it will be a very interesting mission to watch. So check that out. That is June 15th at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. 10:30 a.m. UTC. So that is going to be 6:30 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. So yeah, give that a look, and hope you all enjoyed my coverage of SXM-8 tonight. And I will talk to you all again soon. Thank you very much.